You know, when I made this video, the one that's connected to this comment, I knew that it was a sensitive subject.
It's the fact that we don't owe them an explanation. We don't owe them anything.
Hey beautiful people, how you are doing today? It's your girl Destiny here and welcome back to my channel. How you are doing? Hope you guys are doing great. So this video is the part 2 video I posted previously. So if you haven't seen that video, go check it out. So the previous video where Gen X mother coming to talk about millennials and Gen Z children who have decided to go no contact with their parents, and this Gen X mom decided to ask, is this a trend that is just going on? A whole lot of millennials and Gen Z generation are like saying, oh, their parents are toxic, so they are going no contact with them. She wanted to really explain herself, and another Gen X mom came to really like explain some of the things to her. So that was where Gen X just talking about no contact with their parents, why millennials and Gen Z are going no contact with their parents, which their conversation was a banging one. So go check out that video so you get full context of it. So this video, you're going to hear millennials and Gen Z come and speak up and say why and explain to this woman and let her know if this is a trend, why Gen X generation and the Bloomers generation parent. And this conversation, I just find this conversation interesting. I personally, I'm a early millennial, so I am in no contact with my dad. So I know where this is coming from, and I'm going to share a lot more of my thoughts in this video. So with that all said, guys, let's go check out what the millennials and the Gen Z have to say about no contact with their Gen X parents and Bloomer parents.
A lot of millennials and Gen Z coming out making videos saying that they've gone no contact with their parents.
So the video I'm stitching is not the original video where that clip that you see is from. It's for the woman who posted that. I actually took it down because I think things got a little crazy. And so I'm stitching somebody else who was talking about it. But as somebody who very recently in the past few months has gone no contact with both of my parents, it is not about being a trend. And I think a lot of people like to chalk it up to that, but I want people to sit and really think about what they're saying when they say, are Gen Z and millennials just going no contact with their parents because it's a trend? What person in their right mind wants to go through major life events, whether or not they are good or bad, not having their parents by their side? What person wants to wake up every day making decisions, wanting to call their parents to ask for their opinion, but knowing that they're either going to be berated, dismissed, like any variety of very negative reaction? And I saw a creator talk about this on here a while ago, and I think it is a great way of describing the entire situation. But we have to get to a point where we recognize that our parents love us, but they do not respect us as human beings. I know for a fact that both of my parents love me very dearly. The issue became when I got a lot older, and it was something that I struggled with as a teenager, so much so to the point that I moved out on my 18th birthday. But parents very often do not respect their children's decisions or choices. They do not believe that you are somebody who has the ability to make the correct decisions or really knows what to do. They kind of constantly make it seem like you're just not smart enough to do these things. Or you as a child constantly chasing after this affection and respect from your parents are like breaking your back to obtain, like, reach these goals that you get to a certain point and you're like, are these my goals or are these goals that my parents have set for me and I've been trying to attain it the whole time? And I think a lot of times too is a lot of adults make the decision to stay together for the sake of their children, not recognizing that the relationship that they are displaying to their children can be even more harmful and toxic than it would have been had they just left. For example, constantly watching one parent take on the brunt of all of the responsibilities, the cooking, the cleaning, the childcare, the going to work, while another parent seemingly gets to get away with not doing anything, or being the in and out parent, or being the fun parent that only comes around during certain situations, can really f up the dynamics of a relationship when you're an adult, and understanding as a child how to be in healthy relationships, how to set healthy boundaries. I think what really set it into motion for me as a young teenager, understanding that my parents were never going to truly understand or respect or try to give me the space to be the adult that I was coming into, particularly being the fact that even as a young child, I was working. My parents had 2 older children that they had a lot more hands-on involvement with. But by the time I hit like freshman year, My parents were no longer involved in like what I was doing. Of high school, I was figuring it out. I had to pay for everything on my own. I had to do all these things on my own. And it was funny because I got to a point when I was 18 where I was going to go see a therapist, and I was talking about all these things, and this therapist said to me, "You need to set boundaries with your parents." And at the time I laughed at her because I was like, "Ma'am, I have 2 African parents. There's no such thing as boundaries in my life." But I tried to set these boundaries anyway and was immediately dismissed. I was immediately told that you do not set boundaries with your parents. Your parents are there to love and support you. You don't have boundaries. And that is very difficult when you're trying to have them understand that you still love and care about them as well. But you need to be able to have the space to grow and become a human being. Mind you, there was plenty of other things, but I don't really feel like getting into all of that stuff. But I think I lead a lot more of boomers and Gen X to recognize that if you are having children and then setting them up for success and then setting them up to be people who are assured within themselves and who have appreciated you as a human being, you will never have to worry about your children going no contact with you. And I do also really want to say that if you are a Gen X or a boomer who has kids who have decided to go no contact with you, and you are sitting here wondering why, you are sitting here confused as to why your children have cut you out of their lives, I really want you to think about the last conversation you had with your child before they made the decision to go no contact with you. I want you to think about their body language and the way that they approached you in that conversation. I want you to think about whether or not there was a lot of hesitation, or if there was anger, or if there was sadness, or if there was frustration. Like, how were they relating to you as a human being? Was it something, could you see joy in their face as they were speaking to you? Could you see calm and comfort in their face as they're having conversations with you? Because if you can't remember conversations like that, or if you don't know things about them, or if you think you know things about them, but if somebody was realistically to ask you questions about your child and you couldn't answer them, maybe think about the type of parent you were, and maybe think about how that impacted your child's decision to go no contact with you.
Kids only said, "You're toxic," or "You didn't respect my boundaries." And they're like, "Wait a minute,
But that's why they went no contact, because you haven't understood the concept of boundaries. There's so many ways you could be doing this. There's so many free online resources, content on so many different platforms. You could get a library card and take out the book Children of Emotionally Immature Parents. You might learn something about your own childhood by reading that book. Because it wasn't that your kid started dating someone and then all of a sudden they put ideas in your kid's head and now your kid's gone and you don't know why. What probably happened, and I'm definitely not speaking from experience at all, they started dating someone that comes from a family with healthy boundaries and communication styles, and then your child tried to do that with their own family for who knows how long, perhaps even up to 15 years, and then eventually they had to go no contact with the person who continued to infringe on their boundaries, who continued to show that they were incapable of growth. And obviously, if you can afford it, please go to therapy, because that will allow you to have an individualized, tailored way of looking at your specific situation from the outside perspective. Because if you leave therapy after a couple sessions because you're like, oh, they keep blaming the parents, that's not fair, parents do their best, you need to keep going to therapy, because what's happening is you're realizing through your subconscious, I messed up a lot and I unintentionally hurt my kid a lot, and that must really suck. I'm not a parent, but I know that if I had kids, I would mess up at some point because I'm human, and I know that I would feel horrible once I realized that. But that feeling of horrible that you're ignoring and you're leaving therapy for, you should stay in therapy for and explore, because that's where you're going to figure out where your wound is that you can heal, so that your child will maybe stop being no contact with you.
A lot of millennials and Gen Z coming out making videos saying that they've gone no contact with their parents.
Y'all should go watch that creator's original video. It's very good explanation. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in here because I pretty much agree with everything she was saying as far as, you know, my generation, the generation after me, going no contact with parents. And the one thing that I've noticed is a common theme with a lot of people that I know too that have gone no contact with their parents is the fact that they continue to pretend that nothing happened. Like all that trauma you inflicted, everything you did to your children as like when they were young, magically they just don't remember any of it. And how convenient that you don't remember any of that. But yet somehow, some way, all of us are in therapy and all of us are suffering from some sort of PTSD. So you may not remember it, but we're still trying to process it and heal from it. So.
Because I am truly perplexed, and the only thing that I can imagine this is this a trend?
I could say no, it's not a trend. I definitely know like several millennials, Gen X, that they do not have the best relationship with their parents. And I think like one of the biggest issues with boomers is y'all do not take responsibility for nothing. Y'all will avoid taking responsibility for a lot of the mistakes that you made raising your children. And I don't know what it is with millennials. Gen Z is real. They ain't going for it. I'm like, Gen Z, they are very outspoken. They not going to take any crap. They're not going to settle for any of the nonsense. And I know a lot of millennials, we raise our children to express themselves. We raise our children, we treat them like they are a person, basically. And I know a lot of millennials, Gen Z, I don't know. I'm a millennial, but I know a lot of millennials. And they say, you know, we always heard the saying, a child is meant to be seen, not heard. And I understand that, you know, boomers, that's what was said to y'all. But as a child and you grow into an adult and you understand that things that happened to you as a child was not right, it shouldn't have been done. You watch a lot of the adults do things that should never been done. It should never been acceptable. On top of that, a lot of millennials, I'm pretty sure it's Gen Z, a lot of us have watched our cousins, our siblings, our family members struggle with substance abuse because they're constantly trying to suppress what they experienced as a child, and they don't know how to handle it. They continue to try to suppress it because they don't feel like they have the right to express themselves. And y'all sit up here and y'all up here acting like y'all don't know why they're on drugs, why they are the way they are, because you don't allow them to release that hurt, to release that pain. They're sitting up here trying to protect you, the parent, who should have been protecting the child. So, and as we're trying to heal, and we do heal, and we want a relationship with y'all, but y'all refuse to do the work that you need to do. When you heal, you can't go back into the same toxic environment that caused you to be broken in the first place. So, no, it's not a trend. It's healing. It's evolving.
Exactly.
It's doing better.
And the only thing that I can imagine this is this a trend? Like, I'm genuinely asking.
I'm so glad this came up on my TikTok feed. I follow this lady, so of course she's Gen X too. I cannot answer for Gen Z and I can't answer for millennials, but I can tell you that going no contact with a toxic or narcissistic parent is not a trend. It's not a trend. For me, it was a moment in my life where I stood up for myself and I spoke out and said, you know what? I'm done. I'm done taking abuse. This lady, if you watch the whole video, talks about what toxic really is, what toxic and going no contact is, and she has questions as to why people are doing it. Is it trendy? No, for me it wasn't trendy. To me, she says, why can't we just have conversations and work it out? I have a truly narcissistic mother. Every time I've ever tried to tell her about how I feel or what she's done to make me feel this way, I didn't do anything. I didn't do. I know I was a good mother, but I was good. And she played victim every single time. She didn't accept any responsibility and she just casted it back off of herself. There is no talking to a narcissistic. There's no setting boundaries with a truly narcissistic parent. There is no setting boundaries with them. They just, and she talks about, did they give you shelter? Did they give you, my mother gave me everything she gave me everything I needed to keep CPS from coming. Yeah, I had a house, I had a roof, well, my mother and father. But did I get the silent treatment? Did I get called names? Did I also get slapped in the face quite a bit? Yeah. So, I mean, we can go, down to the very, bare bones of this, but yes, people, and then some of the comments on this video made me really sad. My son hasn't talked to me in 2 years and I just don't know what to do, and it's this new generation. No, honey, let me tell you something. People, children, adult children, do not stop talking to their parents because you missed their son's baseball game, because you might have forgotten to call on a birthday. I mean, which is, come on. We don't just forget to stop talking because of something simple and minute and silly. We don't just, especially a parent, especially a mother, the most important bond in a child, whether it be a boy or a girl, a child's life. No one's going to say, oh, I just dropped contact with my mom because she forgot to come to a baseball game. No, it takes deep-rooted abuse and narcissistic behavior and being treated like you are nothing, feeling worthless. And like I said, the last conversation we had, I never planned to go no contact. I had said, you know what? I'm putting my childhood, all the that was done to me as a child, I'm going to push it to the side. My mother's not in good health. I'm just going to eat it and just, say that happened to me. I'm an adult. I'm going to move on. We're going to have this relationship. But then when you pick up the phone and call your dad and you can hear your mom in the background screaming at you, you're in my day. I don't know. Talk to you. And you think, is she joking? Could she be joking? No. And she wasn't joking. She was being serious. Then I'm in the Dollar General in my little hometown walking around feeling unworthy after this, feeling the same guilt and, same feeling I felt when I was 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 17, 21, walking around with this same, And then I thought, I'm 46 years old. I birthed and raised 2 children. Number 3 is on the way up. Number 3 is 12 years old. So I'm doing pretty good in my life, married, take care of a home and a family. I don't need this more. So I decided, you will never make me feel like shit again. You will never hurt me. You will never make me feel unworthy again. So I go no contact because it's not that it's trendy. It's the fact that it's good for my health and my peace. Because I promise you, at 46 years old, walking around the Dollar General with a blood pressure of probably 200 over 100 is not safe either and not healthy. I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing myself. It's not trendy. It's what's best for our health. Again, children don't cut their parents off. To those who comment on harm video, I don't know why my child isn't talking to me for 3 years. Nobody cuts a parent off. Nobody cuts a parent off unless there's deep, deep wounds there. Think about it.
The thing that I can imagine this is this a trend? Like, I'm genuinely asking.
Okay, so I'm literally in bed about to go to sleep watching TikTok, but I had to get up and I had to respond to this creator. So I could probably talk about this for like 10 hours and I could probably go back and forth with this creator for a long time about this topic. And I want to be clear that I actually respect what she's saying. I understand what she's saying. I don't full-heartedly, agree, but I understand where she's coming from. I am actually someone that went no contact with a parent for a while, and I will say that it was awful, and it was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make. And I also do think that in the end, we now talk again, and our relationship is a lot stronger because we did take time apart. I don't think everyone agrees with the way that I went about it, but I went about it the way that I had to go about it, and it is what it is. Now, I want to talk about something that I don't think we want to say out loud because it just doesn't sound very good. This creator herself said that her father, her biological father, was an absolutely horrible father, and she has not talked to him in 30 years. I think why we are now seeing this generation of millennials and Gen Z having this trend of going no contact with a parent or their parents is because of something that we don't want to say. And I really believe what that is I think a lot of people in the Gen X, in the boomer generation, didn't actually want to be parents. Ooh. Do we see now how the birth rates are greatly declining? People are waiting longer and longer to have kids People are realizing that they have a choice now. People are realizing in this generation that they don't have to do anything that they don't want to do, especially bring another life into the world if they're not fully ready for that. However, our parents' generation did a lot of things just because they felt that they had to. And I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of debating around, no, I love my kids, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but self-discovery and working on yourself and learning about yourself and growing yourself wasn't really a priority over just getting married and producing children. And so then what that creates is someone that is completely disconnected from themselves, has poor boundaries, is toxic in their behavior, right? Because they're just so disconnected from themselves. So I don't think it's, the boomer or Gen X's fault. I don't think it's our fault. I just think it's the way that things fell. I think it was a lot of people that probably shouldn't have had kids. And now this is the result.
The thing that I can imagine this is this a trend? Like, I'm genuinely asking.
So I look super rough because I've been cleaning, but I had to stitch this and jump on here and I guess answer back. You can go and watch the whole video from this creator, but basically it's a long video going into saying that, not everybody's parents can be toxic, and basically she's wanting to know why millennials and Gen Z have went no contact with their parents. She goes on to say, did you have a good relationship with your grandparents as millennials, Gen Z? And if you did, why would you remove your children from having a relationship, even if yours wasn't good? Why would you take that away from your parents? Anyway, it was it was clearly from someone who doesn't understand. So in a nice way, I'll try to help you understand. Millennials and Gen Z, for you to sit there and say, is this a trend, is disrespectful. Obviously, it's not a trend. Obviously, nobody wants to have to cut their parents off. Did you even consider the trauma that someone would have to endure to not even have their parents in their life? You think that's fun? No, it's not. So no, it's not a trend. And unfortunately, we've been the victim, most of us, of trauma from our parents. And you say, well, they grew up in a different time period. So what? It's 2023. Therapy is available widespread to everybody. And guess what's free? Taking accountability for your behavior. If you're 50, 65 years old, that's usually the Gen X era, and you still can't take responsibility for your actions when your children, adults with children of their own, are telling you, XYZ, when you did to me, was traumatic. In my case, I was physically abused my entire life. And it was a terrible, terrible, traumatic event, a lifetime of event that I will suffer with forever. And the audacity of someone to get on here and say, is this a trend? Ma'am, take several seats and just get off the internet.
So the only thing that I can imagine this is this a trend?
This is a stitch of a stitch because the original video is gone, but I want to talk. I'm adopted, that's no secret, but you may not know that. And the thing about my relationship with my adopted mom is that I kicked her out of my life essentially when I was 16. And I say that, and I said that for a long time, but the reality of it is that she failed me very hard. I was put into a position where it was healthier for me to live life without a mother than to deal with what she was bringing to the table. Instances that come to mind specifically are all of the times she told me that she loved me because she had to love me, but that didn't mean that she liked me. And I thought that that was a once-off situation, like when I didn't do the dishes and I'd get screamed at. But in adulthood, I've come to realize that what she probably meant was, I don't like you as a person, but I have to love you. You see, she had this thing where she would adopt pets, dogs, cats. All of her love and attention went to those pets when they were babies. And then they grew up. She decided she didn't like them anymore, and then we would have to get rid of them. Now, the thing about adopting a child is when they grow up, you can't just give them back. So she was stuck with children that she didn't really want because we weren't kids anymore. So, when I was old enough and brave enough to get out of that situation, I did. Every now and then I'll get a message, a phone call, a voicemail. She goes as far as getting burner phones so that I don't recognize the number to try to contact me. So yeah, it's not a trend. It is a deeply traumatizing experience that some kids, adults have to go through. Finishing point, I did the no contact thing before it was cool.
Truly perplexed. And the only thing that I can imagine this is this a trend? Like, I'm genuinely.
Imagine your children or child deciding that it is more beneficial to them to not have a parent in their life, aka becoming a self-induced orphan, and your reaction being, is this a trend? Because the reality is, a lot of these parents whose children are going no contact believe that it's selfishness of the children and of no actions of their own. I can promise you, as someone who's no contact, it hurts. It's not fun, but it's necessary to heal. You cannot heal in the environment where you got sick. If your house is molded, you're not going to heal from that in the house that's molded. We don't go no contact and then go out here and party and have fun and say, oh yeah, I don't have parents because my parents are toxic. And yes, she goes on in her video to say that toxicity to her always meant deadly, but that's not true. Toxicity is anything that is draining you, whether that be an actual toxin that makes you sick and could kill you, or a person that makes you sick emotionally and mentally. It doesn't have to be actual physical problems. But it's wild to me that so many of these people have no contact children, and their response is that the children are the ones that's selfish, and that the children are wrong, and that the children suck and all this, and they don't do any self-reflection to say, hey, maybe I was just a shitty parent. Maybe I did things that I shouldn't have done that they can't heal from. Maybe I should take accountability for my actions. Because a lot of the times, these children that are going no contact, such as myself, is because we're not getting apologies, we're getting excuses. Like with my mother, it's not, I'm sorry, I was a mom. It's, maybe I could have been a better mom, but I was mentally ill, which was not my problem. I was a child, and I was abused, and I was neglected, all because of your mental illness that you knew that you had and chose not to get help for. So no, it's not a trend for your child to stop talking to you. It's not fun for your child to stop talking to you. When you go no contact with a parent, you still crave having that parent. You want the relationship that you see other people have with their parents, where they can call them and they can talk to them, and that's their best friend, and they go shopping and they do all these things, and they have that person to depend on. But not all of us have that. So we have to grieve a person who's still alive, because it's more beneficial to not have them in our life than to have them in our life. It's basically grieving a person that's dead, but they're not dead. So yeah, that's a trend.
Imagine this is this a trend? Like, I'm genuinely asking, because I am seeing
I guess you could call it a trend, or maybe you could call it enlightenment and awareness. There is a collective awareness happening. People are waking up to the realization that we were not all raised by people who were completely not selfish. And I think in the aspect of evolution, that is a great thing to happen to the human race. We all need to do better. And I mean, I'm sorry, but if you got no contact from your children, you probably deserve it. No contact from your children will be your cue to get off social media, stop crying and blaming your children, and actually go to a therapist and get some help, because maybe you'll uncover other things that can be improved in your life that will not only impact your relationship with your children, but your relationship with yourself and even your elders. So yeah.
Please go down in the comment section and share your thought. Love to know what you think about this conversation down in the comment section. But please keep it respectful. You're on the channel. We're allowed to disagree, but we do it in a respectful way. So go down in the comment section and share your thoughts, okay? And let us know if you're in no contact with any of your parents, or if you were and now you're in contact. Just go down and share your story. Love to hear your thoughts on this. So like I said in the beginning of this video, this is the part 2. So the part 1 was the actual video a lot of people are stitching and talking about. So I'll leave it down in the description box and also up in the card, so you go watch it and get full context of the Gen X parents talking about children, the millennials and Gen Z. I decided to go no contact with them. So for me personally, like I said, I am in no contact with my dad, and with my mom, I was supposed to be no contact, but I feel like with my mom, there was just that soft place, and my mom was very open. Even though my mom, I know she's watching me, but she's going to get it like that. She usually say I talk too much, like I reveal too much on my videos. Yeah, because she always watch a lot of my video. So one of the things my mom did for me, and I feel like that really trickles a lot of trauma for me, was that my mom was physically and verbally abusive to me. Like physically, my mom would the whooping. But also, I have gotten to the place where I am so grateful for the kind of relationship I have with her, because we've talked about this. But even come to think about this now, like the other lady said, they make excuses rather than just to say sorry. My mommy, come. Did you ever say sorry to me for all you did? No, she actually explained our own trauma. And I think that I was that child that I understand clearly where our trauma was coming from. So we make things up, and we're both very good with each other. Like, well, we have an amazing relationship. But coming to my dad, which I said I'm going to let you guys know what's up with me and my dad. I've been with no contact with my dad now for almost 4 years now. And that's because my dad is somebody that I love my dad. Like, a lot of other people are saying that nobody will intentionally go no contact with their parents and say, oh, well, I don't want to become. No, it's usually the parents that has triggered it or something, and it's a deep-rooted issue. For me personally, my dad has always been that person, which I knew, and I feel like that's also why I come and I talk about men, and we actually try to really, because I saw the relationship my mom and my dad have, and that was not the relationship I wanted to have for myself. Because yes, my mom would say I talk too much, and I'm bringing a relationship here. But yeah, I saw how my dad was very controlling with money. Growing up, I was very cool with my dad. I was one of my dad's children that I had a good relationship with him. Or at least I try to have a good relationship with him. I tried to be that child that was able to talk to him. I tried to be that child that was able to express themselves, because I've always been that very expressive child to both my parents, and that got me to a whole lot of trouble for my mom's end. So I've always been, but my dad never physically, but my dad mentally and financially will abuse you. And one of the things that really struck me and really got me to that place, which if you come to look back at it and say, oh, this was it, that was not just the reason. It was a trickle down of a whole lot of things. But the one that broke the camera back was that you have a child that doesn't depend on you. Like, I don't call my dad for money, even though he has the money. I'm not one of those children. Even though he has some kids that will call him for money, I was not that. My health, I had a very bad health 2020. And because of 2020, everything was shut down. Things were kind of a little bit finicky and all that. So I called my dad, and it was life-scaring one. Like, it was life-scaring. They literally told me that I might not make it. So in that fear and panic state, I picked up the phone and I called my dad. And the first thing he could say, and I was hysterically crying. And this is not me. I am that person that I don't break down. It is what it is. It is me. I don't break down for nobody. It's one thing that if my mom sees me break down, my mom knows like it's about to go down, including my husband. And I called my dad and I'm crying like, Daddy, I need your help. And the first thing he said out of his mouth was that if no money I not get. This man could not even take the decency to ask what was wrong with me. Why was I hysterically crying in the middle of the night around past 10? But that was just what he said to me. And even to date, he didn't ask my mom, he didn't call my husband to find out why I was crying that way. And I called him. And I just felt like, why should I have somebody like that in my life that the only thing that's very important is he's so self-centered. It doesn't really, because somebody you care about, you're going to find out what happened. Even though the person was very destructive for not talking, you're still going to find out. But he didn't. And it is what it is. Okay, so that's my own little story. Okay, my battery is low now, but yeah, so that's my own little story. So please go down in the comment section and share your thoughts. I'd love to know what you think about this conversation down in the comment section, but please keep it respectful. Go on and share this video with somebody that you want to be part of the conversation, because that's what we do here. We have banging conversations, so go on and share this video. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Deuces. I had to rush this video because my battery is dead. Bye, guys.